Yo, 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 it is your boy, Nice versus Wild, and you're listening to another episode of Be a Wolf Sessions. Thank you for tuning in. How's everybody doing? Honestly, it's been a little while. I've been on the go. I was in Brisbane. My brother got married, and then I went back to New Zealand, and now I'm in Melbourne for a little while, back in my home studio, and I'm recording the session. And it's been a little while because I've been on the road, and it's been fun. The whole feature team got together for my brother's wedding, and it was so much fun. It was a bit of a family reunion, actually, and so cool to see so many of my closest friends and families all in one place. It was such a magical experience seeing my brother get married. So it's been a bit of a week, honestly, bit of a couple weeks, to be honest, but I'm glad we're doing this today. If you're listening on a Monday morning, bright and early, I just want to say mad love to you for showing up every single week. And if this is your first time listening, my name is Nigel Sashil. Actually, you're probably like, who the heck is this guy? My name is Nigel Sashil. I'm a full-time creative entrepreneur from South Auckland. I was born in a rural Fijian village called Lambasa, Bunileka, and my mission in life is to write a story that beats longer than my heart. Now, if you're a creative, if you're a business owner, if you're an artist, if you're a venturer, if you're a community member that's trying to make impact in your organization, in your communities, in your groups, in your environments, this is definitely the right channel for you, and right story and right podcast, wherever you're listening. I'm glad you're tuning in. I wrote a bunch of stuff in my diary in the last sort of 3 weeks as I've been on the go so much. And there's so much I want to sort of share, but there's a couple of things I'm going to highlight in this week's session. And I think it's going to be around business. It's going to be around understanding the three kind of fundamentals of business and the stages of business. If you're growing something, if you're starting a venture, or even if you're in the startup phase, I'm going to try unlock and give you the three stages of growth and change and adaptability in your art and your craft and your creativity, as well as your business and your business ideas. Now, before I jump into it, big love to Future Weddings for sponsoring every single Be a Wolf session. Massive love to you. And actually, the most important part, I completely almost forgot because I've been just on the go like crazy. Thank you to everybody that showed love on the Great South Road documentary video that came out last Tuesday. Honestly, so many amazing messages, so many amazing comments, so many amazing shares, and I'm so glad so many young people and individuals and members of the community resonated with the doco. It was all about spreading love and creating change, and one of the biggest reasons we started the Great South Road Running Festival was creating a collective of change makers, and not only that, collective of love that comes to life when you bring people together with a collective vision and a goal. And I'm so glad so many people resonated, and the 2023 Great South Road Running Festival is happening on October 15th. So if you want to do something fun, you want to go for a couple of laps, or you just want to get out and move that body, movement's probably one of the greatest things you could do for your body. Show up on October 15th. There's a bunch of free options, like 5, 10Ks is all free. If you want to do something a little bit crazy, 22, and there's the big old 70Ks if you want to jump on that as well. There's still time to jump in. But yeah, thank you to everybody that showed love on the Great South Road Running Festival documentary. Honestly, it took us 12 months to make it almost. We all got completely rejected for funding, and I'm so glad to bring it to life. And I've watched it like a million times. Knowing me, I've watched it a million times. But I honestly, so many people messaged me and saying how much they loved it. So I just wanted to say thank you for watching it. If you haven't gone and checked it out yet, I'll put the details in the show notes. You can go watch the documentary. I think it's pretty good. It's pretty. If it doesn't make you move, please call me. I'll come to you. I'll knock on your door and we'll go for a run. All right, so let's get into it. So a couple of things I wrote in my diary this week. Let's go. I think this one's good. So point number 1 is stop chasing butterflies. Focus on growing the garden, which then leads to butterflies that come to you. A lot of times, I don't know who said this, but I heard somebody say this. Stop chasing butterflies, focus on growing your garden, and the butterflies will come to your garden. That's what I was trying to say. And I think this is so important in whatever journey, story that you're crafting in your life right now. If we understand the fundamentals of nurturing and watering our garden, in a business venture, in a idea. Sometimes we water things and we hope it grows overnight, but it doesn't work like that. It takes months, it takes years, sometimes it takes decades, and sometimes it takes longer than that. I'm always been about the long game. I've always been a thinker of the future, rather than trying to make things happen overnight. I've always been like that. And I think if you've been listening to these sessions, you could probably resonate, because you wouldn't be showing up every Monday if you didn't, right? So you're already starting to think and nurture that brain of thinking about the long term, thinking about how you can create impact, maybe not in a year, but 5, 10, 20, 30 years from now. And a lot of times people don't think like that, because we live in a world where, instant gratification is like literally on the daily, on social media, on pretty much everywhere, right? Every interaction, it's all transactional. And if you can master the craft of creating valuable relationships for the long term, both in your idea generation as well as your relationship generation, you'll be able to create a brand, a business, a venture that will 100% last the distance. And I'm a big believer in that. So make sure you stop chasing the butterflies and start focusing on the garden. And you're probably like, why are you just giving me these like magical lines this week, Nigel? It doesn't make any sense, because we're going to talk about the 3 stages of business. And I wrote this down. Okay, so stage number 1 is startup. Stage number 2 is scale up. And stage number 3 is grow up. And to be honest, let me reflect on me. I feel like I'm in between startup and grow up. I haven't got to grow up yet. And I feel like I'm slowly getting there at the creative agency side. But I'm going to try to describe each of the stages. And hopefully, if you're not really into business and you're listening to this, and I feel like you can apply this in any area. And I know I always say that, but you really can. And I whatever you care about in your life right now, break it up into these 3 stages. Okay, so if you're in the startup phase and you're like listening to the session, you're like, you haven't really done anything in your life, and you feel like you don't deserve anything, or you feel like like an underdog, or you feel like shit's not going right, or you feel hopeless. You're probably at the startup phase, right? You haven't really moved, but you've got an idea and you want to bring it to the world, and you're in the startup phase. And the startup phase for me personally was all about product creation. All right, now, we've talked about this a lot of times, but in order for you to create an income or create an outlet, you have to create a product, right? Simple stuff that adds value. It might not add value to you, but if you can add value to others with a product, that's the startup phase. All right. A lot of times businesses fail because they create a product that's not for the market, but it might be something they're super, super passionate about. And I'm not saying don't follow your passions, don't follow your heart, but if you're like in that business space and you want to figure out a way to generate income, especially if you're like just finishing high school or you're going to university, you don't know what to do, but you've got that entrepreneurial mindset. Remember, the first part is startup, but you have to create a product, a service, an idea. A product can be described in many ways, but I believe that like if you can create a product that adds some sort of value to making somebody's life a little bit easier. Think about yourself on a day-to-day. What's one thing that you can do and bring to this world, or create? If you could create something to make your day-to-day life easier, what would it be? Man, crazy example, right? Everybody uses Apple. Okay, Steve Jobs created Apple. Everyone knows, right? The bro literally made probably one of the greatest phones in our generations. Like, look at this. Like, this is like literally the greatest technology piece of work ever in terms of accessibility and like user interface and like literally the ecosystem of the Apple world is like ridiculous. And if you think about how they control their market and how they created their own market and how they send product signals before they launch a product, they're just testing the market. They're just playing with humans. To be honest, they've created their own marketplace, their own ecosystem, and now that's why they can have ridiculous prices, and people will still buy it because they know how to They know how to create their own marketplace. Apple never versus anybody. They only play with themselves, like in terms of creating a product, and then they test out the whole market within their own little circle and their own little market. And I think the secret to any kind of success in business is realizing that like you're not here to play the price game with everybody else in the market. You have to be able to create your own market and your own kind of ecosystem, whether it be referrals or whether they be like product based in terms of adding value in your own circles that starts a chain effect. I don't know if I'm getting that right, but you get what I mean, right? So you have to be able to create a product that adds value in the startup phase, but not only that, create a marketplace of your own and stop comparing yourself to the market's big enough for everybody, but create your own damn marketplace. Okay. The next stage of business is scale up. Okay, let's dive deeper on this. Now, this is company creation. Now, if you're a solo entrepreneur listening to this, like you're like, damn, that doesn't make any sense, man. I'm not making no company. I'm a one-man army. But hear me out. Right now, you are using your time in your business, and go back to a couple of episodes and we talked about, are you working in your business or are you working on your business? Are you working in your ideas or are you working on your ideas? And I think when you understand this concept on how you're spending time, then you can understand if you're really scaling up or are you repeating the cycles in terms of like sustainability, or are you surviving, or are you just kind of right now in your business or at work, are you living paycheck to paycheck? And trust me, I still do this on some weeks when I can't, like I'm struggling to pay the team. And like one of the greatest struggles is like, fuck, hopefully we sell some deals this week so we can actually pay people. So like, understanding that your time is super valuable, and in order to get to scale up and company creation isn't just like you hiring people and people working for you. It's understanding the concept of how are you using your time. Are you using your time to build your company, or are you using your time to work in your company? Super powerful, all right? Are you working in your company, or are you working on your company? And in order to scale up and bring about large scale growth, you have to be able to get to a place where you can use and understand people's skill sets and leverage that for greater good in your business, so you can move faster towards your business goals and stuff like that. So first stage, obviously startup. Second phase is scale up and company creation, identity branding, all of that good stuff. Okay. And the third stage here is the grow up. This is so good. The 3 stages of business: startup, scale up, grow up. I know, it just sounds really good, eh? Legacy creation. Now, this is cool. And I'm a big believer in this. And I think if you're not thinking like this from the start, I feel like it's you have to, like, how Steve Jobs said you got to connect the dots backwards, and he's always been right on that, to be honest. If you in order for you to start something up and keep it going for long periods of time, you have to think about the legacy creation pretty much from day one. And you have to be passionate about it. You have to give a shit. You have to be willing to give things a go, even when you know it might not work out. And I think if there's an idea in your brain that's ticking, and you're like, fuck, like this might work or this might not. It's not about if it's going to work or not. It's about like, oh shit, if it doesn't work and I do this for the rest of my life, will it still be worth it? And I think just to like unpack and like kind of go in a different direction here, like I think Be a Wolf as a movement has been always like this for me. And I've got some crazy plans now, and I'm so glad I started it. But I think I knew that, like, man, I didn't know what the heck I was doing, right? But I knew that I I knew that I could do it every single day because I was super passionate about my community. I was super passionate about South Auckland. I was super passionate about helping the next generation, find their why. And not only that, but also understand that, like, doesn't matter what background, what culture, where you're from, anyone, like, can be an entrepreneur, or anybody can be a creative, or you can make money as a creative and stuff like that. And I knew the things that I valued. And I had this idea, and now it's kind of like formulating into this like big pool of like better ideas because I had the courage to start something. So I think if you can go with that intention and when you're coming up with your startup ideas, you have to align it with your core values, or you're just going to give up. No shit. You're going to give up. You're going to be like 2-3 years in and you're going to be like, fuck, this was a bad idea. It's because I'm just not, it doesn't align with my core values. And I'm not saying that your ideas and your thought process isn't going to change, but your fundamentals of your end vision, I feel like, I'm kind of like talking against myself now, but like, you get what I mean? Like your end vision can't change too much in terms of like the things that you truly care about from the bottom of your heart. I don't know if that makes sense. You get it. Okay. So I think when you think about legacy creation, which is like literally the grow up stage of any business, is understanding like, hey, what does your business want to be remembered for? Okay. Or how is your business or your company or you as an individual made an impact on this world? And if you can think about that stuff from day one, it's going to give you enough jumping ropes or enough trampolines to get to that big idea. And it might, like I said in the start of this conversation, it might take years, it might take decades, but if you can stay in it for long periods of time, because this, honestly, you just have to keep going until the end, and most people will drop off the cliff. But if you stay in it, and even if you're hanging off the cliff a few times, like, you just got to keep holding on. And when you keep doing that, over and over again, I promise you, those ideas, those fundamentals, those relationship building skills, those growth, startups, scale up, and grow up stages will just happen because you just didn't give up. Hopefully that made sense. All right. So I wanted to talk about this. A couple of stages of business, and that was pretty much another point I wrote in my diary. So stop chasing butterflies this week. Focus on growing the garden and let the butterflies come to you. And I think that's a really good wrap up, to be honest. And I feel like even these Be A Wolf sessions, like, compared to the first episode and stuff like that, like, I've really kind of figured out the things that I'm super passionate about. And especially like when you're starting, right? No one's fucking listening, man. No one's listening. Trust me. Like, when you start, no one's going to listen, or anything that you begin, you're not going to have a million, unless like some miracle happens and you've got like a massive following and stuff like that off the bat because you've come up with a crazy idea, and I'm going to say good on you for doing that. But it's not going to blow up, all right? And no one's going to listen at the start. But that's the best place to be, when no one's watching and no one's listening, and all the ideas, you just let it all out, and you can find yourself. You can have that self-discovery. Like, give you an example. Like, when a singer-songwriter or famous artist like Justin Bieber got famous when they were really, really young, they struggled to find themselves, because they blew up. Everyone was like limelight, all fame 24/7, like cameras on him. And it took him so long to discover himself. And not saying he's like, hasn't discovered himself right now, but like, the pressure of like, delivering hits after hits after hits. And I think if you can have that longevity of like having no hits, but keep showing up in your craft and your ideas, I think that's probably more valuable than coming out, recording a couple of things, and then like having like the number one podcast session in the world, or number one podcast in the world. And I think if you can practice that on a regular basis, man, you're just gonna outwork everybody. I just know that for a fact. So hopefully that gives you some ideas this week in terms of the thoughts, in terms of idea creation, in terms of where you are right now. It's not the last place you're going to end up. But most importantly, I hope it inspires you to try and realize that you don't have to have it all figured out from day one. and you can you can try a bunch of things and discover your own way of communication, your own way of creating ideas, your own way of being creative, and your own way of starting a business, a venture, or your own way of creating impact and helping others as well. So whatever you want to do. So yeah, hopefully that helps. Thank you for listening to another Beer Wall session. Hopefully that wasn't everywhere. I tried to keep it on structure, but we talked about the 3 stages, just to summarize, of business: startup, which is product creation; scale up, which is company creation; and grow up, which is legacy creation. Stop chasing the butterflies, grow that garden, and let the butterflies come to you. 20 minutes. Beer Wolf, keep going. And before you do any of that, make sure you keep being yourself. Peace and love. I will see you next Monday. Let's go.